Freedom from Hijacked Emotions, Overcoming Anxiety, Anger, and Fear by Dr. Randy Carlson. Hey guys, it's Trish Munson. You're sitting with me by the fire. We're going to read chapter 2 tonight. The emotional languages of head, heart, and hand. Emotions have a profound impact. As host of my radio program and podcast, I hear the toll hijacked emotions have taken in the voices of those who call in to the program. One of those callers, Linda from Wyoming, shared how she struggled with anger that was so volatile it was damaging to her and those she cared about. Has this explosive anger been a life pattern for you? I asked. Interestingly enough, she replied, it was one of the first things that the Lord dealt with when I became a Christian, and then it tapered off and it wasn't an issue. I married into an abusive relationship and came out of it. Now that I'm in another relationship, my anger is resurfacing in a very nasty way. Emotions such as anger are often symptoms of something deeper within you. I like to refer to it as emotional ooze. It's like a volcano. It may appear dormant, but the magma within continues to build until it starts seeping out as lava in advance of the inevitable eruption. Emotions that are stuffed down will eventually explode into regrettable eruptions of words or actions, if not intentionally managed. Some signs of emotional ooze are passive aggressiveness, sarcasm, moodiness, avoidance, procrastination, withholding affection, and even a change in your expression. Eyes are the window to the soul and can portray emotions such as sadness, loneliness, and anger. Like Linda, you may wrestle with one negative emotion that tends to hijack your life and steal your happiness and well-being. There are many negative emotions to pick from. Anxiety, fear, guilt, envy, shyness, jealousy, and loneliness are just a few. Yet you can take charge of those emotions and redirect that powerful emotion energy from negativity into spiritual, personal, and relational growth. You can harness your God-given emotions and use them to help you boldly live an intentional life for Christ. Proverbs 28:1 says, "The wicked flee, though no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as a lion." Boldness is courage in the face of fear. In fact, I believe boldness is courage in the face of any negative emotion, ready to hijack your life and run you into an emotional ditch. In order to manage your emotions, you have to be willing to confront some of the deep-rooted issues in your life and find balance so that you can live the way you were created to live. Usually, there are warning signs that are overlooked or neglected that quickly point out the risk of a potential hijacking. My son Derek was still in high school when he came home one afternoon and parked his car in the driveway behind mine. I needed to move his car. I got in and turned on the ignition. I immediately noticed a warning light blinking on his dashboard. This one indicated that a headlight or a tail light was out. After moving the car, I went inside and approached my son. "Derek, how long have you had a warning light on in your car?" He shrugged. "Oh, maybe 4 months. I don't know." I shook my head in fatherly frustration. "Those lights connect to something, you know. There's probably something going on. Could we check it out?" We did, and sure enough, it was a tail light, and he got it fixed. In the same way, there are warning lights that flash on the dashboard of your heart before an emotional hijacking takes place. In the beginning, they're easy to ignore. like Derek's taillight. It doesn't seem that big of a deal, but after your emotion is hijacked, you often look back and realize you saw it. You saw the warning light. You just didn't do anything about it. Then there are those times the warning light is more urgent. If your car is beginning to overheat, you see the needle going up on the temperature gauge and understand that if you ignore it, you're going to stall or worse. Make a bold move. Decide who's in charge of your emotions. Number 1, don't ignore emotional warning signs in your life. Taking care of a hijacked emotion early will save you additional pain later on. Number 2, freedom starts by discovering the source of your hijacked emotions and intentionally deciding who's in charge. Number 3, don't blame others for your emotions. Own them. And number 4, take action starting today to address your emotional warning signs. The way to best heed the warning lights in your emotional life is to cultivate balance of head, or healthy thinking, heart, healthy emotions, and hands, healthy behaviors. The healthiest people I know think clearly, feel deeply, and act decisively. The challenge is to discover which of the 3, head, heart, or hand, is out of balance with the others. Many of the emotional conflicts we face are the result of our thinking, emotions, and behaviors being out of alignment. Imagine the kind of emotional hijacking that often takes place when a head person is married to a heart person, or when a hand person works with a head person. The head person wants to think about it. The heart person wants to experience it. And the hand person wants to just get it done. Many of our emotional and relational challenges originate from these 3. In most situations, we tend to gravitate to our primary language. Keep in mind that there is no one person whose language is all head or all heart or all hand. Emotionally mature people learn to speak the necessary language at the moment when it is needed the most. For example, I primarily identify as a head person, but I've learned to speak the languages of my heart and hand as well. So while we are never perfectly one or the other, whichever language represents our primary language is where hijacked emotions may start. The language of the head person. The head person tends to be analytical, factual, and more responsive to details. A bottom line sort of person. As a head person, I love to get to the bottom line first. Then I'll push for the details to make sure the bottom line adds up. I've learned that others need to walk step by step through the entire process before getting to the bottom line. Sometimes a head person can feel frustrated because they are often locked in their own minds, analyzing, processing, and deciding something to the point that they fail to express what they're thinking. When they finally do say something, they tend to connect with people through ideas versus feelings. One of the signs you're dealing with a head person is when you ask them how they feel and they tell you what they think. When I'm counseling a head person and get a cognitive response instead of an emotional one, I'll say, "No, tell me how you feel." They'll simply respond, "I just did." When arguing with a head person, don't say phrases like "you never" or "you always," because they'll immediately recall that one time when that wasn't true about them. The head person thrives on facts and details, and they're more likely to challenge whatever you say that doesn't feel logical. Therefore, the head person can win disputes, but they can lose relationships because they miss discerning the heart of the other person. The heart person wants to hear they are loved, while the head person is thinking, I told you I love you when we married, and if I ever change my mind, I'll let you know. Head people often struggle with experiencing and expressing their emotions, unless it's anger. Most times, their emotions will bottle up inside, like magma within a volcano, and when it's released, there's an explosion. If you're a heart or hand person, you can see why a head person can frustrate you and cause your own emotions to get hijacked. Hopefully, though, you can also realize how they can become frustrated with someone who doesn't understand the language of the head person. In addition, head people can often unknowingly be insensitive to the needs of others because everything starts in their head. I came home one day and drove into the garage, only to notice a scratch all the way from the front to the back of my wife's car. It wasn't a dent. It could be easily fixed. I knew it wasn't major and assumed Donna was okay, but she had been in some sort of accident. As I looked at the car, my first thought, being the head person I am, was, I wonder what she did. I walked into the house and saw her sitting at the table. What did you do to your car? I asked inquisitively. I saw it instantly in her eyes. My question had hurt her, and her response was understandably curt. I'm fine, thanks. I could see that Donna was fine. I had processed that she was fine. I knew that she was fine. If there had been blood on the floor, I would have known differently. It wasn't that I didn't care about her, but I certainly failed to connect with her heart. She wanted to hear me say, What happened? Are you okay? I needed to find a better way to communicate, connect my head language with her heart, and express that she was really what mattered most to me, not the car. Later, Donna shared what had caused the supposedly insignificant scratch. An approaching driver had turned into the lane to her left in such a way that had he been 1 inch closer, he would have hit her head on. Unbeknownst to me, Donna was still struggling with the fact that she could have been seriously injured or worse when I asked her my seemingly innocuous question. There I was, a head person who allegedly wants the facts, and I didn't even bother to get the facts first. Had I done so, I would have had a better chance to show Donna I cared. Make a bold move. Declutter your emotions. Number 1, if you're a head person, be aware that you can easily hurt the feelings of a heart person, miss the priority concerns of a hand person, and painfully butt heads with either one. Number 2, head people often stuff their emotions. God has given us the gift of emotion. So become mindful of each experience, identifying what you're feeling at the moment. It may be a stretch, but it's worth it. Number 3, head people need to guard against overanalyzing things to the point of missing what others are feeling and trying to communicate. When talking with someone, take time to make eye contact and listen for the meaning beyond the words. If you live with a head person, I encourage you to find out what interests them. If your son, for example, wants everything to have a bottom line, your best approach is to come at him with facts. Put things in terms he'll understand. To other head people, I exhort you to be present with people more than with facts. Listen without giving an immediate answer. Ask them how they're feeling without telling them what to do. The language of the heart person. Heart people are more aware of the emotional experiences going on with people around them than head or hand people. When we leave an event with a group of people, Donna can easily recall things about them and the relationships that I totally missed while busily doing what head people do best, counting the numbers of chairs, assessing the square footage of the room, and working out how much better I would have organized things had I been in charge. Heart people are emotional, intuitive, reactive, and passionate. For them, most things begin in the heart. They feel and show intimacy through words and emotions. Heart people often react more quickly to situations, can appear to the head or hand person to be responding illogically, and can be easily hurt or offended by the head or hand person when they never had any intention to do so. I regularly talk to couples where a head person husband is married to a heart person wife. They experience frustration in their relationship because he often thinks she is too emotional or irrational, while she feels he just doesn't understand what they're going through. If you loved me, she says, you'd listen. Yet he fears that if he opens up and starts to talk, there will be no end to the discussion. Both believe their spouse is unaware of their hurt and sometimes feel that their spouse doesn't care at all. This is why it's so important to learn one another's language. Make a bold move. Declutter your emotions. Number one, as a heart person, your gift of emotional awareness can also become your greatest enemy. Identify right now the one emotion that hijacks your life the most. Number two, as a heart person, take the emotion you just identified and start a 30-day challenge to daily take control of that one emotion. Number three, one step to declutter your emotions is to decide today to use your emotions and not to be used by them. My daughter Andrea is a heart person. When she was a teenager, her big-hearted approach to life and others caused her dad's head to go into overdrive, trying to help her think everything through. Not long after graduating from college, Andrea came home to visit and shared with me and Donna what God was doing in her life. As we sat in the living room, she revealed, "I feel God is calling me to the mission field." The idea wasn't anything new. She had been on mission trips to Mexico in high school, and we knew her heart could be drawn to overseas mission work. Still, we were not prepared for her declaration. Seeing Donna's concern, I asked the obvious, "Where do you think he's calling you to go?" "Well," she said, "I asked the missions agency, where in the world is the place that nobody else is willing to go? They said, we have openings right now for 100 missionaries in Mongolia, and we only have 14 people who are willing to go. So I told them I'll go." Mongolia? I don't even know where that is. I started running through a checklist of head person worries. What are the dangers there? What is the culture like? Where will she live? What is the bottom line for what she's trying to do? She told us she was interested in teaching English and sharing Christ with the people and assured us she would be safe. After several months of extensive training, our precious and only daughter packed up her bags, got on a plane all by herself, and flew to the most remote part of outer Mongolia, a land in Asia sandwiched between Russia and China. Andrea went there and to the people living in this remote place because she cares for others, and it was where she felt the Lord wanted her to be. Since then, Andrea has married a wonderful Christian man named Chris, who is a helicopter pilot. Along with her husband and 3 of our grandchildren, she now serves in one of the poorest and most dangerous countries in West Africa. They live with bars on the window of their house and a 24-hour-a-day guard at the door. But Donna and I, while still concerned about her in our own ways as head and heart people, couldn't be prouder of Andrea and her family. The language of the hand person. The hand person loves lists and getting things done. To them, acts of service mean everything. They want to take action and see results. For that very reason, hand people can appear to be very impatient. They can also be intolerant of words that are not backed up by action. and they can become so busy with their activity that they miss what's going on around them. They have to guard against projects replacing people in importance. Trustworthiness is huge with the hand person. You might casually say to them, "I'll take out the trash later," but then you forget and it doesn't get thrown out. By morning, you've hurt their feelings. They have experienced a breach of trust. Head and heart people also expect trustworthiness in relationships, but for the hand person, hijacked emotions can be heightened due to their priority language of getting things done. They often measure how much someone cares by how many things get checked off their to-do list. You may think it's no big deal, but all they know is that you told them you were going to do something and then you didn't follow through. A hand person looks at someone's behavior and uses those factors to determine how close they are going to get to that person. When you interact with a hand person, especially those you love, you must show love in terms of action. Do the dishes without being asked and see what happens. Doing things for them communicates that you value them. My wife Donna is also a hand person. I've learned there are two things that mean a great deal to her. If I clean up my messes and fill up the gas tank in her car, I clearly show affection to her. It's like I'm filling up her love tank too. When Donna accompanies me to a conference, she wants to stay busy helping out at the resource table. Just sitting still drives her crazy. She wants to be out there helping our team and serving attendees. She has no desire to be on the platform. Rather, Donna loves to stay busy at home, works from a checklist, and is typically always looking for the next project. The other day, I came home from work to observe a new paint sample on the wall. It was an interesting tinge of green. "What do you think of that?" Donna asked. "I don't like it," I replied politely but honestly. When I came in the next day, the sample was gone. Where did it go, I thought. Donna then held up a paint can. "Will you put this in the garage?" I took it and saw it was a can of the green I had rejected the day before. As I stepped into the garage, I noticed, not for the first time, how many other cans of paint were beginning to accumulate. I found a marker nearby and I wrote on the top of one of the cans in front, "Another good idea." The next day, Donna brought that very can to me. "Another good idea, huh?" she asked, smiling. We laughed. We knew it was my way of showing my appreciation of her desire to take care of our home as a hand person and of acknowledging our differences as individuals. Make a bold move. Develop a plan of action to respond to emotional triggers. As a hand person, guard against taking on too many things. This is number one. Overcommitment may make you feel needed and busy, but it can wear out our spiritually, physically. Let me start over. Number one, as a hand person, guard against taking on too many things. Overcommitment may make you feel needed and busy, but it can wear you out spiritually, physically, and emotionally. Number two, intentionally establish more margin in your schedule. And number three, identify the next right one thing you could drop off your daily checklist starting today. Our differences complement one another. God made us different so that we'd need each other. As Proverbs 27:17 declares, "As iron sharpens iron, so no one person sharpens another." If you're a head person, you need a heart person in your life to help you stay in touch with what's going on in your world. If you're a heart person, you need a head person in your life to keep your feet on the ground. Every single one of us needs a hand person in our lives to help us accomplish those things that need to be done. It's exactly as 1 Corinthians 12 declares about the body of Christ, the family of Christian believers. Just as a body, though one, has many parts, but all its many parts form one body, so it is with Christ. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you. And the head cannot say to the feet, I don't need you. On the contrary, these parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable, and the parts that we think are less honorable, we treat with special honor. That's 1 Corinthians 12, 21 to 23. Remember, intentionality can only occur when you combine information, insight, and action. You could put it like this: information plus insight plus action equals an intentional life. Information comes from the head, insight from the heart, and action from the hand. All three are vital. Good intentions only become reality when you're diligent to take action. A good intention without action is only a good idea. You can have all the passion for a vision, but unless you take action, nothing happens. Ephesians 5:10 tells you to figure out what will please Christ and then do it. If you really look at the directive closely, you can see how the head, heart, and hand are each necessary to fulfill it. To figure out means to think it through. That is, using your head. You discover what will please Christ by connecting your heart to Him. You then do it by putting your hands to the task. My oldest son, Evan, is a hand and head person. He thrives on getting things done with excellence and to God's glory. When he succeeded me as president of Family Life Communications, the board of directors knew the ministry would be in good hands, literally, into the next generation. I've observed how Evan has intentionally expanded his range of leadership gifts to include a huge heart for the staff and listeners as well. Evan's leadership growth reminds us that when we're created, God, in His intentional design, created us as head, heart, and hand people. There was a perfect balance. Adam and Eve had perfect communication, perfect understanding, and perfect ability in getting things done. When sin occurred, things got shattered and we gravitated to one of these three. Whenever our primary language goes into overdrive, hijacked emotions become a threat to a balanced life. Yet it's in reestablishing that balance between head, heart, and hand in our relationships that will deliver the results we desire in the 5 essential areas of life: faith, relationships, health, finances, and work. Bold move questions. Decide who's in charge of your emotions. Number 1, what are 3 emotional warning signs in my life right now? Number 2, where do I think they're coming from? Number 3, who do I blame for these emotions? Number 4, what's the next one thing I can do this month to address these warning signs? Bold move questions. Declutter your emotions. Number 1, as a head person, how has overthinking or overanalyzing gotten me in trouble with a heart or hand person? Number 2, in what ways is it difficult for me to name and identify my emotions? Number 3, what next right one thing could I do over the next 30 days to stop overanalyzing things to the point I miss what others are feeling and trying to communicate with me? Bold move questions. Declutter your emotions. Number 1, what emotions What emotion gives me the biggest challenge as a heart person and why? Number 2, what are the strengths of a heart person? And number 3, as a heart person, what next right one thing could I do in the next 30 days that will help me deal with a negative emotion? Bold move questions. Develop a plan of action to respond to emotional triggers. Number 1, as a hand person, how does taking on too much negatively impact my life? Number 2, what can I do to establish more margin in my schedule? And number 3, what is the next right one thing I could drop from my to-do list to add that margin to my life?